Welcome to our video on the top 10 controversial topics in the sports industry. In this video, we will list our opinions on the top 10 as well as give information on each one. This video has been done by Karina Robinson, Anna Simone, Sara McCutcheon, Jeniffer Jaquet, and Alexis Wilson.
Athletes are always looking for their competitive edge. It is not breaking news that some have resorted to performance-enhancing drugs to obtain just that. They are underneath so much pressure that some feel the need to take anabolic steroids. The most famous scandal includes the popular cyclist Lance Armstrong. For years he denied cheating after winning 7 Tour de France champion titles. It wasn't until 2013 that he finally admitted to Oprah about his usage of steroids to grow his cycling career. The consequences of this included becoming banned from professional cycling for life and being stripped of his titles. Let's look into the reasons why athletes might want to use these steroids. Anabolic steroids are known to increase muscle mass and strength. Anabolic steroids also show signs of reducing post-workout muscle damage. This then allows the athlete to work out better and more often. Anabolic steroids are banned by the FDA and is a black market item. Some of the cons include shrunken testicles, breasts, infertility, and an increased prostate gland. Women can develop a deeper voice as well. You can't bring up controversial sports topics without mentioning Deflategate. Deflategate occurred when the New England Patriots football team were found having turned in deflated footballs to use during important games. The penalties for this included a suspension of Tom Brady for 4 games, and the Patriots were fined $1 million. They also lost first draft picks. Some fans do argue that this wasn't a tough enough penalty.
The Paralympics empowers athletes and promotes the achievements of sports excellence. The Games have been solidified in history as an important space for positive disability representation and serves as a platform for fair competition. However, many believe the Paralympics are not always equal. Before an athlete can compete, they must take part in a disability classification process where some believe that athletes may have exaggerated or downplayed their abilities in order to gain an advantage. Many feel that the system is failing, making the road to gold harder for disabled athletes. Transgender athletes in gender-separated sports have been at the center of various arguments for years. The belief that testosterone in higher levels gives trans women an advantage has influenced their position in the female sports division. Policies have been created that limit the allowed levels of testosterone prior to an official event. Studies have been conducted that have determined trans men were more socially acceptable than trans women. Trans athletes with hormone treatments were more socially acceptable, and trans athletes were more socially acceptable in unofficial sporting events.
Number 5, diversity in sports management. While we have been seeing more diversity in sports, we do not see a lot of it on the sports management side. We all know that diversity is important, especially in areas where there is spotlight. We like to see people who look like ourselves on the screen. According to the New York Times, in 2020, there were 74% players of color, but only 13% head coaches of color in the NFL. In 2020, there were 60% players of color in the MLS and 41% head coaches of color, making it the highest percentage among WNBA, NBA, MLB, and the NFL. There is another problem in sports management. Where are the women coaches? According to an article on the NBC Sports, as it stands right now, only 10 women currently work as head coaches across the 3 major North American women's sports leagues, the WNBA, NWSL, and NWHL. In the 2020 NFL season, there will be a record number of 12 women working as coaches. According to an article on NBC Sports, this record number is only achieved because 5 years ago, the NFL established the Women's Careers in Football Forum, WCFF, to inspire, educate, and connect women actively working in football to other college and NFL football operations positions. Number 6, U.S. Olympic athletes and wages. Unless they are a big-name Olympian like Simone Biles or Katie Ledecky, Olympic athletes do not have representation, sponsors, or endorsements. According to Forbes, about 60% of Team USA athletes make less than $25,000 a year. Not only is that not enough to support themselves full-time in their sports with expenses such as travel, training equipment, and coaches' fees, oftentimes it's not even enough to put food on the table. For Olympians, the Olympics is a chance for them to show off all their hard work and earn money. They receive money for every medal that they win. For a gold medal, they win $37,500. For a silver medal, they win $22,500. For bronze, they win $15,000. This prize money does not come from the International Olympic Committee. The countries reward their athletes. Zaileen John Mohammed realized the disparities for Olympic athletes and created an app that is specifically for them and sponsors. This helps the athletes that had a hard time making money while keeping up with their training. Although this is a great solution, the U.S. needs to pay their athletes a living wage so they can be in their best condition to compete.
My name's Anna Simon, and this is number 7 in Top 10 Controversial Topics in the Sports Industry. It's a common occurrence for athletes to seek asylum during international sporting events, and when it comes to the Olympics, this is a big opportunity that many take. In this image, we see Kristina Simneskaya, a Belarusian sprinter. She made headline in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics for her defection and fears that retaliation if she returned to Belarus. Just like her, many have followed. First recorded defector in 1948 London Olympics, Marie Provasnikova, Czech president of the International Gymnast Federation. 1956 Australian Olympics, 83 Hungary athletes flew out, only 38 returned. We jump ahead to the 1976 Munich Olympics, 117 athletes have defected. 2012 London Olympics, 82 athletes defected. Athletes defecting from nations filled with war and political turmoil make it a desperate want for them to seek a better life back then. Now many athletes are frequently motivated by the desire to live in better economic conditions. Number 8 in Top 10 Controversial Topics in Sports Industry, should female athletes be paid the same as male athletes? Many people assume that women are to blame for the pay disparity in sports. We all overheard the comments, women are slower than men, they are unable to play for as long as men. It isn't, however, the fault of female athletics. Rather, the wage disparity between men and women in many sports is a result of decades of underinvestment fueled by sexist attitudes. Each league and sports organization has its own structure of compensation and benefits. Male athletes in basketball, golf, soccer, baseball, and tennis make anywhere from 15% to nearly 100% more than female athletes. While women's pay has risen over the last decade, the pay disparity persists even among the world's highest paid athletes. We must understand and recognize injustices where they currently exist in order to create a more equitable future for women's sports.
Number 9 in Top 10 Sports Controversies. There have been endless headlines on the domestic violence caused by athletes, predominantly male athletes. The most infamous of all was allegations against O.J. Simpson for the murder of his ex-wife, Nicole Simpson, and her husband. In March 2014, the running back for the Baltimore Ravens, Ray Rice, was charged for assaulting his fiancée, and there was even footage of him punching her in the face. That same year, Adrian Peterson of the Minnesota Vikings was charged with child abuse for hitting his 4-year-old son with a tree branch. Moreover, an early American study found that on college campuses, male athletes were overrepresented by a factor of 10 among the men who commit acts of sexual assault and domestic violence. The abuse isn't exclusive to men either, although they are in the majority. Hope Solo of the U.S. women's soccer team was also charged for assaulting her sister and her nephew. Many people speculate as to the cause of this phenomenon. Some claim that they're trained to be very aggressive and somewhat violent on the field. That's the nature of the game, and that's how they become important players. There's also the idea that from an early age, athletes may be held up on a pedestal, and some may end up feeling entitled to do whatever they want. While this is no excuse for assaulting anyone, it may show the psychological reasoning behind their actions. And it also proves that for such high stress and violent occupations, athletes should seek therapy despite the taboo around it. Number 10 in Top 10 Sports Controversies is the case of Larry Nassar and the USA gymnastics team. In 1994, a gymnast claimed that Larry Nassar began to sexually abuse her, which then lasted 6 years. In 1998, Nassar sexually abuses the 6-year-old daughter of a family friend, and this lasts 5 years. This pattern of pedophilia, sexual abuse, and the possession of child pornography continues until 2016, despite countless allegations against him and lawsuits against the institutions that defended him. Nassar, who for too long enjoyed a healthy standing in the field of osteopathic medicine, was then tried and denied bond on December 21, 2016. On January 24, 2018, he was sentenced to 40 to 175 years in prison on sexual assault charges. In total, about 250 women have accused him of abuse, including USA gymnasts Michaela Maroney and Simone Biles. Biles, in an interview with NPR, discussed wanting to quit. It was too much, but I was not going to let him take something I've worked for since I was 6 years old. I wasn't going to let him take that joy away from me.